The Champions League 2025-26 season is starting really soon, so it's only right that I give you my predictions on what's going to happen during this season's league phase. And just a reminder on how it works since it's still relatively new, there are 36 teams in the Champions League. When teams placed 1 through 8 at the end get an automatic ticket to the round of 16, 9 and 24 go through a separate knockout playoff round to make it to the round of 16, and the teams placed 25 to 36 will be eliminated from the competition. And during the league phase, each team will play 2 teams from pot 1, 2 teams from pot 2, 2 teams from pot 3, and 2 teams from pot 4. With every club having their own schedule of fixtures. So now with that explanation out of the way, let's get underway with my predictions on who's going to finish where on the table, judging by each club's lineup of fixtures, how good every team is currently and who we should watch out for, and identify which games we should keep an eye out on the most. And trust me, you're going to want to stay until the end, because I definitely got some crazy upsets in this video. Now the last place team on this list, I'm going to have to go for the Cyprus-based club Pafos, who are making their debut in the Champions League this season. And fun fact, Pafos FC were literally only formed 2 days before the 2014 World Cup after a merger between 2 Cypriot second division clubs between AEP Pafos and AEK Kulia. That's crazy. What's crazier is that I just found this out after I dropped a video essay on the 2014 World Cup, so make sure y'all go watch that after this one. But anyways, Pafos had to go through 3 sets of qualifiers before making it to the Champions League. They had to beat Maccabi Tel Aviv, which they did 2-1. Thank goodness we don't need to see that fraudulent club in the biggest competition in Europe. Then they surprisingly beat Dynamo Kiev very convincingly 3-0 over 2 legs, even winning away from home in one of those games. And then against the Serbian side Red Star Belgrade, Pafos would beat them 3-2 on aggregate, winning 2-1 unexpectedly away from home in the first leg, and then drawing 1-1 in the second leg to go through, with the Brazilian Jaja scoring an 89th minute equalizer to send the Cypriot side through to the Champions League. That was extremely clutch from the Brazilian, and he's actually not the only Brazilian guy on the side as well, with Anderson being a part of the team, and recently as of this summer, the 38-year-old Brazilian center back who has played for Chelsea, Arsenal, PSG, etc., David Luiz, has joined the side. This is football heritage, people. David Luiz is playing in the Champions League in 2025. This is amazing, and they still got some other good players too, as I mentioned before, Jaja, and they also got the Croatian Mislav Orsic on the team too, etc. So Pafos does have some potential. However, the reason why I got these guys in last place is because of their schedule. Playing Bayern at home and then Chelsea away as their pot 1 side is tough, but then having to play Villarreal, who are a surprising package this season for sure, Juventus away, Olympiacos away, which is going to be a hostile environment because of the Greek-Cyprus rivalry, and even going away to Kazakhstan and play Kairat puts these guys in a disadvantage. So in the culmination of all of these things, I got Pafos finishing in last place. Sorry y'all. Moving on to the 35th place team on this list, I got the Azerbaijani side Qarabag, who have just only qualified to their second Champions League campaign ever. The last time they were in the UCL was back in the 2017-18 season, where they were drawn in the group consisting of Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, and Roma. So yeah, Qarabag were never surviving that. Another fun fact is they have the longest serving manager in the competition in Gurbov Gurbanov. What a name, by the way. Who's been in charge of the club since 2008. He's been coaching Qarabag since I was 6 years old, bruh. Bro, he's been coaching the club before some of y'all were even born. Anyways, the reason why I got them 35th is because although they did well in the qualifiers to get here, destroying Shelbourne 4-0 in aggregate, destroying Shakindija 6-1 in aggregate, and barely getting past the Hungarian side Ferencváros 5-4 in aggregate, the club that Naby Keita plays for, fun fact. They almost blew the lead in that game too, but luckily they held firm. But even despite making it this far, their schedule is kind of tough for a respectfully mediocre side as they are, with them playing Chelsea and Liverpool at Anfield as their pot 1 sides, Frankfurt and Benfica as their pot 2 sides, Napoli as a pot 3 side, and Athletic Club as a pot 4 side. So yeah, I don't see them getting too many points, hence why they're finishing 35th. Moving on to the 34th place in this leaderboard, I'm going to have another Champions League debutant, the Kazakhstani side Kairat Almaty. Now Kairat is going to be a tough place for other clubs to play at because they're the most interesting team to ever reach the Champions League. In fact, Almaty is closer geographically to Tokyo than it is to England, and it's even further east in terms of longitude than Mumbai. Not only that, Almaty is a city on the border of China, and is further than countries in the AFC like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, etc. Additionally, Real Madrid's away day at Almaty is going to be like a 9-hour flight to them, and if the game is in the winter, which I don't know yet because I'm filming this video before the schedules come out, it's definitely going to be so cold for Real Madrid to compete in. That's why I got Kairat finishing higher than the other teams that I mentioned previously. Also, I mean, look at their qualifying games to get to the Champions League in the first place. They literally beat Celtic on penalties to get here, so they can't be all that bad. They seem like a pretty decent side. However, due to the difficulty of the schedule and the fact that Kairat on paper really aren't that special admittedly, I do have them finishing in the low spot of 34th place. Moving on to the 33rd place now, I'm going to have to go for Slavia Praha. Now the Czech club qualified automatically to the Champions League after winning the Czech League last year, making this the first time they're in Europe's most elite competition since the 2019-20 season. But I'm just going to be honest, I don't really think there's anything too special about this side. They don't have a scary away ground for most teams, and compared to the other teams in the Champions League, for example, like Galatasaray, that's a scary away ground, and Slavia Prague don't really have that to my knowledge. And when they're away from home, I don't really think it'll be that difficult of a side to beat. Their schedule is also pretty tough. They gotta play Barcelona, Inter Milan, Arsenal, Athletic Club, etc. So yeah, with all things considered, I think they're better than the debutants that I mentioned beforehand, but they're not good enough to finish higher than 33rd place on my list. Now on to 32nd place now, I'm gonna have to go for the Danish super club FC Copenhagen, probably the most famous club in Denmark as I alluded to. Now in order to make the Champions League, these guys also had to go through the qualifiers, where they beat Drita 3-0 over 2 legs, absolutely slapped up Malmo 5-0 in the second leg at home to go through, and then beat Shaqiri's FC Basel 3-1 over 2 legs, winning 2-0 in the second leg at home to make the Champions League, which is an impressive result, don't get me wrong. Also, they do have some notable names that we do have to mention, like the Mexican fullback Rodrigo Huescas, Marcos Lopez, a defender, the Danish striker Andreas Cornelius, and one of the more low-key transfers of this summer transfer window that I didn't even know that happened until recently, I'm not gonna lie. The once German super talent for Borussia Dortmund, Yusuf Moukoko, who has joined FC Copenhagen on a permanent deal this past summer, so he'll be playing in the Champions League for this team. How this guy went from Germany's World Cup squad to FC Copenhagen in a span of only a few years is ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie. Regardless, after looking at their schedule, like playing Barcelona, Villarreal, Tottenham, all away from home, and then Dortmund and Napoli at home, I don't have high hopes for Copenhagen, which is why they're 32nd place on my list. Moving on to 31st place now, I'm gonna have to go for the Norwegian club Bodo Glimt, the northernmost team in Champions League history. Now, Bodo Glimt does have some credit in the bank for their performances in Europe in the past few years. They humiliated Jose Mourinho's Roma in the Conference League group stages in 2021, and last year in the Europa League, they made it very far, making it all the way to the semifinals of the competition before losing to Tottenham. Their stadium being in the Arctic Circle is going to be a tough ground for anyone to play at, and with most of their difficult teams in their schedule playing away in Norway against them, I feel like they can pull off a couple of impressive results here or there. The problem is, they still got to go away to Dortmund, Atletico Madrid, and the top 4 sides who are supposed to be teams that they have to beat are probably 2 of the toughest top 4 sides they can get in Monaco and Galatasaray away from home. If it wasn't for that, I would probably have Bodo Glimt a little higher than 31st place, but due to that, I do have them finishing in this position. Sorry y'all, I hope Bodo Glimt perform well though. I've actually grown quite fond of them, especially after last season. Now moving on to 30th place, I'm gonna have to go for the Greek super club Olympiacos, who became the Greece League champions after 2 years of not winning the title somehow last season, and they're also the Conference League winners back in 2024. Now Olympiacos are a good team. They even got some good players that some of y'all might recognize, like the Turkish forward Yusuf Yazici, the Moroccan El Kabi, Gelson Martins, he was that wonder kid on FIFA back in the day, Chiquinho, Roman Yaremchuk, and potentially even Mehdi Taremi if the rumors are correct and they actually pulled this signing off, etc. Olympiacos got some good players, but not quite good enough if I do say so myself. Plus with their schedule, oh my goodness, they gotta play Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. That's crazy. And then Arsenal, even an underrated side in PSV Eindhoven, and then traveling all the way to the east of Kazakhstan to go against Kairat Almaty, etc. It's gonna be brutal. I can see Olympiacos getting maybe a couple of wins in there, but to make it to the playoffs, I doubt it. I'm sorry y'all. Moving on to 29th place now, this might be a little bit of an upset, but I'm actually have to go for the Portuguese side Sporting CP. Now, I know Sporting won the Portuguese title last year and still have kept a ton of top players, like Ousmane Diomande being one of the many examples, but lately they've had a huge exodus of players and staff. For example, there was a clear drop off after Ruben Amorim left, and they just couldn't compete against the bigger teams in Europe after he left to Manchester United. Then this summer, they just lost Victor Gyökeres to Arsenal, who scored 54 goals in all competitions last season for them. And although yes, they still have Conrad Hardler, who seems to be the next striker to bang in the goals, he's been strongly linked to a move away. And yes, although Sporting are doing well in the Portuguese league as of right now, it's the Portuguese league. The first team they played that was good in Benfica, they lost to them in the final 1-0. So not gonna lie, I'm not sure if Sporting will finish 29th place exactly, but I will not be surprised whatsoever if they finish in an elimination spot. Yeah, I don't have them finishing in a playoff spot. It's kind of an upset, I know. Now moving on to 28th place, I'm gonna have back-to-back upsets. Something I love to do because y'all know how much I love an upset, but I'm gonna go for Atalanta. Now I know, this side literally just won the Europa League in 2024, and they've often pulled out surprise results in the past. But this year, I can see them sticking it up, respectfully. Ademola Lookman, their superstar player, doesn't want to play for them anymore, and they're not getting the signings they want, like Yunus Musa, who seems his move is blocked as of right now. And they also lost their superstar manager that has put Atalanta on his back for many years, Gianpiero Gasperini, who has dipped to the fellow Italian side, Roma. Instead, they replaced him with Ivan Juric, a man who won 2 out of his last 16 games in charge of Southampton last season as they got relegated in the Premier League. I don't rate the manager that highly, and with Atalanta looking like they're not at the level compared to the years prior, I got them finishing in an elimination spot in the Champions League. Sorry. Moving on to 27th place, I'm gonna have to go for the team that just won the Belgian League, Union SG finishing here. Now yes, I'm familiar they won the Belgian League for the first time in like 80 or 90 years, or something crazy like that, and that they're making their debut in the Champions League. But I think they just got pretty unlucky with their schedule, man. Although they got some good players on their roster like Promise David, Kevin McAllister, Sofiane Boufal, etc., I don't think their squad is good enough to compete against Europe's elite while also trying to go back-to-back and winning the Belgian League. And with their schedule of having to play Inter Milan, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Newcastle, PSV away from home, Galatasaray away from home, etc., I can't see them finishing higher than 27th place. And now it's time we talk about the 26th place where I'm going to have another upset. This might be a big one to some of y'all, but I got Athletic Club finishing in 26th place in an elimination spot from the Champions League. Now let me explain myself before y'all start hating on me in the comments. Yes, they did convince Nico Williams to stay with Bilbao after heavy interest from Barcelona, but in preseason he wasn't all that. And although they got off to a bright spot in La Liga, including beating Sevilla 3-2 and Rayo Vallecano 1-0, with Nico Williams even playing well in the first game, I don't think Athletic Club will stay strong enough to compete against Europe's best. Some of their most important players, like Sunset for example, do have injury issues, and Iñaki Williams is only getting older and he can't score the all-important goals forever. Plus, I'm not saying Athletic Club is going to fail miserably. They're only going to fall 2 spots below a playoff spot. spot. That's all. Plus, with their schedule consisting of PSG, Dortmund away from home, Newcastle away from home, Arsenal, etc., I can see them winning against some of the other teams, but not the big boys. And you know how I know they're not going to win those games? Because they got absolutely booty clapped by 15th place Manchester United last season in the Europa League semifinals. If you can't even be decent against an awful Manchester United side, how can you blame me for not betting on y'all when you have to go against Europe's best clubs? So for that, I got Atletico finishing in 26th place. On the 25th place now, this also might be another upset, oops, but I'm actually have to go for the Dutch Giants Ajax, finishing in that last spot that gets them eliminated after the league phase. Here's why. The manager that kept them in the title race before choking it in the last few games, Francesco Fariolo, has left Ajax to join Porto, in which Porto seem like they're actually kind of cooking with him and they're looking good. While instead, although Ajax hired Heitinga, who's under Arne Slot's coaching staff, so I know he's good, Ajax squad is simply just not all that, and they didn't do anything in the transfer window. Basically, they did sign Ko Itakura, and that's about it in terms of notable names. While they lost Joel Hato to Chelsea, and in fact for the goals, they're still relying on the likes of Weghorst and Brian Bobby out of all the players to score the goals for them. Now mix in this uninspiring squad with the schedule they have, where they have to play Inter Milan, Chelsea, Benfica, Villarreal, Marseille away from home, etc., I can see Ajax barely missing out on the playoffs, which is why I got them 25th. But before we talk about who makes the Champions League playoffs in this 25-26 season, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. And also make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams may be coming soon, so if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Now back to topic. The club I got barely making the Champions League playoff round is the one and only Turkish giant Galatasaray. Maybe it's because I got a soft spot for them, as I really do like their jerseys, and also ever since Drogba scored that backheel goal against Real Madrid all those years back, I started liking them a bit, but I can genuinely see Galatasaray making the playoffs. Fun fact, these guys have only lost 7 league games over the past 3 seasons, and with them signing Victor Osimhen on a permanent deal from Napoli, and them also signing Leroy Sané from Bayern Munich, Galatasaray is chefing up something nice ahead of this season's Champions League campaign. Plus, with their home stadium being an absolute fortress for away teams to play at, I can see them getting some points at home. In fact, looking at their schedule, I can see them getting points against every team at home except hopefully my club Liverpool, and can even see them grabbing some points away from home too. And with that, and with Osimhen carrying the offense, I can see Galatasaray snapping up that last playoff spot in 24th place. Moving on to 23rd place, I'm going to have the Belgian team that didn't win the league last year, Club Brugge, who I got finishing in a playoff spot unlike their Belgian counterparts Union SG. Here's why. I know Brugge just lost the likes of Arden Jashari to AC Milan, Maxime de Kuiper to Brighton, and Chemsy Dalby to Sunderland, with even Christos Scholes being linked to a move away too at the time of recording this video, and with all these players making a pivotal role in Brugge's round of 16 run in last year's Champions League campaign, how can I possibly have them finishing in a playoff spot again? Well, they just smashed the living hell out of the Scottish club Rangers 9-1 over the 2 legs, and low-key, Rangers should just dissolve after these 2 losses, because this is just embarrassing. But regardless, Club Brugge seem to be cooking, which is why I got them in a playoff spot in 23rd place. However, they did lose too many players for me to place them higher than 23rd. Moving on to 22nd place now, I'm actually gonna have to go for the Portuguese giants Benfica. I know some people out there are gonna place Benfica higher, but for me, I can't really see that. And the reason is their schedule. Yes, I know, they lost Alvaro Carreras this summer to Real Madrid for 50 million euros, and potentially even Florentino Luis to Burnley, but they still got a good team with Pavlidis leading the line this season, and the new signing of Richard Rios in that midfield, which is such an underrated signing if I do say so myself, and potentially even Sudakov too from Shakhtar. But even with these new additions and some late departures, I got them finishing as low as 22nd because of the schedule being mad difficult, with them having to play Real Madrid against Carreras himself, Chelsea away from home against their old star boy Enzo Fernandez, Juventus, the Italian giants Napoli, Newcastle, St. James's Park, etc. So with a schedule like this, I can see Benfica still making the playoffs, but just only barely, which is why I have them in 22nd place. On to 21st place now, I've got AS Monaco finishing there. Side note, I really gotta visit Monaco, man. This place looks beautiful. Rich, which I'm not, but beautiful. Anyways, talking about the club, I simply think Monaco looks pretty good. They got good strikers on the team like Mika Berith and Bodo, the American full-learning Balogun, while already consisting of some other good players like Alexander Golovin, Ben Seguir, Takumi Minamino, Vanderson, Magnus Akliush, and even signed some top players that make Monaco even a more attractive destination / club to keep an eye out on, like Eric Dyer, Ansu Fati, who isn't playing yet because he's on a personalized program to get back to full fitness, and Paul Pogba, who also isn't playing yet after being out for 18 months, but he's set to be back sometime in October. So with Monaco taking a risk on a couple of signings, if they pan out, they're in pretty good shape, even though they're already in good shape with their squad already being pretty good. Plus, with their schedule having most of the difficult teams they're playing are going to be in Monaco, like Man City, Juventus, Tottenham, and Galatasaray all being home games, while their difficult away days are Bodo Glimt because of weather-related reasons and Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. I can see Monaco getting enough points to make the playoffs. Only if they keep starting my boy Balogun. He's amazing, trust me. Moving on to 20th place, I'm going to have the other French club that's won a Champions League, Olympique de Marseille. And Marseille have made a ton of interesting moves in the transfer market so far, like signing Igor Bashia from Feyenoord, Angel Gomez, CJ Egan-Riley, bringing back Aubameyang, getting my boy Timothy Weah in, etc. But right now, there's been a ton of drama surrounding Marseille and De Zerbi. That clip of the way he treated Kone seems to be over the top. The Mason Greenwood thing is still there. He's going to get booed heavily, especially in the away days in England. And the beef between Robbie Monroe know where they swung at each other. And this might mean Rabiot gets sold along with Rowe, who already did get sold to Bologna. So yeah, regardless of whatever happens to Marseille, they're going to be an entertaining watch for sure. But I got them finishing 20th because I think their squad is good enough, their manager is good enough, and I feel like apart from a few matches like against Liverpool, Real Madrid, and Newcastle, I think they can handle the rest somewhat easily. And moving on to 19th place, I'm actually going to have to go for Eintracht Frankfurt. Now I feel bad for Frankfurt because in the year of 2025, they've been pillaged. They lost Omar Marmoush in January to Manchester City, and now they just lost their next man up top, Hugo Ekitike, to Liverpool for a huge sum of money. Thank you Frankfurt for that, because Ekitike is an absolute baller so far. But not only that, their schedule is pretty difficult. They gotta play against Liverpool, which does mean a reunion against Ekitike, but also Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Tottenham, Napoli, etc. It's not an easy schedule, but I can see them getting wins in the other games that they're playing, which is why I can see Eintracht Frankfurt finishing in a Champions League playoff spot. But also, it does seem like Frankfurt have already found their replacement attackers for the players that they lost, in the 18-year-old Turkish forward Can Uzun, and this guy that they spawned out of nowhere in Jean Mateo Bahoya, who both played a role in destroying Werder Bremen on the first Bundesliga matchday this season 4-1. So with that, I think Frankfurt will be alright and finish in 19th place. Moving on to the next team on this list in 18th place, I got Bayer Leverkusen. This might be a little too high for some of y'all because they did lose so many players this summer transfer window like Jeremy Frimpong to Liverpool, Florian Wirtz also to Liverpool for over 100 million euros, Granit Xhaka to Sunderland, Victor Boniface was about to leave to AC Milan but he might have failed the medical, and Kape seems like he could be on his way to Arsenal, and the manager Xabi Alonso even dipped to Real Madrid. So Leverkusen have also been pillaged, but they did sign some players and a new manager to help them out with this, like dropping a record 40 million euros on the American Malik Tillman. So I'm curious to see how he performs with a team that he's supposed to be one of the faces of. And also I feel like Erik ten Hag has disrespected a little too much. And although I don't expect Leverkusen to be anywhere near Xabi Alonso's side, I still think they'll do pretty alright if you ask me. Nothing too crazy, but decent. Plus with their schedule being alright, like having difficult ties against PSG, Man City, Villarreal, Benfica, etc. The other teams I feel like they can maybe beat. Like beating Newcastle not at St. James's Park could really help Leverkusen out. So with that being said, this is why I got Leverkusen finishing in 18th place. I'm banking on them becoming a decent side. Moving on to 17th place, I'm gonna have to go for the back-to-back Dutch champions, PSV Eindhoven. Now PSV are a good Dutch side. Don't get it twisted. They're very good at attacking. However, they did lose some key players over the summer. For example, they lost Malik Tillman, as I just mentioned, to Bayer Leverkusen. They lost Luke de Jong to FC Porto as a surprise signing. How this got past Fabrizio Romano is astonishing. Johan Bakayoko left to RB Leipzig, and they just lost Noah Lang to Napoli as well. That's 4 of their key players. And sure, they brought in Plea. Ricardo Pepe's coming back after a long-term injury, so is Serginho Dest, etc. They're just a bit of an unknown side right now, with too many pieces coming in and also leaving. But I'm confident enough to say that they'll still be a good enough side to finish somewhere in the middle of these playoff positions. Plus, with their schedule being I think they'll finish 17th. So yeah, moving on to 16th place now, I'm gonna have to put Newcastle United in this position. Here's why. To me, Newcastle is still a very good side. Yes, every striker on earth has been ducking them this summer. Like João Pedro, Liam Delap, Strand Larson even, Hugo Ekitike ducked them for Michael Liverpool, and even their own striker, Alexander Isak, is ducking them too, announcing that he basically never wants to play for the club again and is basically desperate for a move to my club Liverpool as well. But even with all their issues, they finally signed a striker Walter Made, the ex-Stuttgart striker that Bayern desperately wanted towards the beginning stages of the summer transfer window. And their performances so far have been pretty good. I mean, literally judging their performance against Michael Liverpool, they did very well apart from the fact that they lost 3-2 due to the then 16-year-old Rio Ongemoa scoring a last-minute winner for us. But overall, Newcastle are still a fairly good side, and I expect them to do decently well in Europe. I don't expect them to do too well though, you feel me? Which is why I only have them finishing in 16th place on my list, especially with their schedule consisting of playing Barcelona, PSG, Benfica, Atletico Club, Marseille away, etc. But I think they'll do good enough to finish in a respectful 16th place spot. Remember, PSG finished low in the playoff spots and still won the Champions League, so there's always hope. And if Newcastle turns St. James's Park into a toxic fortress like they did against Liverpool, even though we did nothing wrong, the players you watch/employ are ducking y'all for us, that's not our fault.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
But regardless, I think Newcastle will be alright at the end of the day and finish in 16th place. Let's now go over to 15th place, where I'm actually gonna have to say the Italian giants Juventus will be placed at. I know it seems crazy to have a well-established name in Europe as Juventus being placed low on the table, but bruh, I respectfully do not think they're that good. They got some good players like Kenan Yulis, Vlahovic is alright, Weston McKennie, Bremer is just coming back from injury, Colomwani seems to be returning, Francesco Conceição, Jonathan David joined them on a free, Coop Miners, Cambiaso, Kalulu, Locatelli, etc. But under new manager Igor Tudor, I'm just not expecting too much out of them if I'm keeping it real. This Juve side does not impress me like the sides from the past, and I don't think too many clubs are going to be afraid of these guys, especially for the elite clubs. There is no fear factor with Juventus anymore, at least right now there isn't. Their schedule's alright though, except playing Real Madrid and Villarreal away from home, so I got them finishing in a playoff spot still, obviously, but nothing too crazy like top 8 for example. Now I'm not sure whether this would be considered an upset or not since this is a pot 1 side, but I got Borussia Dortmund finishing in 14th place. This is why. Like Juventus, I don't really think this side is as good as the sides in the past. Their big money sign this window has been Jude Bellingham's little brother, and already in the first game, there's been some drama with Joe's parents invading the dressing room or something and asking why he was substituted at halftime. No wonder Gio and Jude get along, huh? They both got soccer moms for real. But anyways, enough with the jokes. I'm just not moved by Borussia Dortmund. I wasn't last year even with Garassi going off. And I'm definitely not this year, especially after how dirty these guys at G Arena. I can't forgive them. I hope they do give the young Americans Cole Campbell and Matisse Albert some minutes though, especially Campo, because they didn't let him leave this summer. So the least they can do is allow him on the pitch. Also, I don't really rate the manager Niko Kovac that highly. I've mentioned that in previous videos, I just thought I'd mention it again for you. Overall though, their schedule's alright, with them having to play Inter, Man City, Juventus, Tottenham, Villarreal, etc. Loki, that is kind of difficult looking back on it. But yeah, BVB is going to be finishing in 14th. There's not much else to it. Let's now move on to 13th place, where we're going to have the Italian champions from last season, Napoli. That's right, these guys under manager Antonio Conte in his first season ended up winning the Serie A title in a close tie race against Inter Milan, and Scott McTominay, out of all players, ended up winning the Serie A MVP. I swear, every player that leaves Manchester United just looks so much better elsewhere, I swear to God. McTominay was a beast in Serie A. Anyways, Napoli have been making a ton of moves in this summer transfer window, something that they usually don't do. I guess Conte made some false calls, because they ended up signing Noah Lang from PSV Eindhoven, as I mentioned previously, Sam Buquema from Bologna, Miguel Gutierrez from Girona, Vanja Milinkovic-Savic from Torino, Lorenzo Luca from Udinese, and of course, Kevin De Bruyne on a free transfer from Manchester City, the big sign for the Naples-based club. And if we take a look at their schedule too, Kevin De Bruyne will be returning to the Etihad to play Manchester City as well, and this is going to be one for the history books. He's probably going to get a positive reception for sure, unlike potentially another player that we're going to talk about soon. But anyway, speaking of the schedule, it's not really that bad apart from Chelsea and Manchester City, and maybe even Frankfurt and Benfica. But I think Napoli can handle these clubs. Now the reason why I don't have Napoli higher is because Conte has proved time and time again that he's a fraud when it comes to Europe, especially in the Champions League. And there is nothing from his past that proves to me that he can take Napoli far in this competition. It would be cool to see if he does though, but I'm skeptical, hence why I have them finishing in 13th place. Moving on to 12th place now, I'm going to have to go for Atletico Madrid. Now the start of the season has been extremely underwhelming for Atleti under Diego Simeone. They lost to Espanyol away from home that recently got acquired by JJ Watt, the ex-NFL superstar and also the current Burnley owner, 2-1, which is just an absolutely terrible way to start this La Liga campaign, and then they ended up drawing an Elche out of all teams to 1-1. Now they haven't played Alaves yet at the time of recording this video, but if they drop points in this game, I might low-key have Atletico Madrid a little too high on my list. And Diego Simeone has been back this summer. Sure, he's lost some crucial players in this team, like Rodrigo De Paul dipping to Inter Miami to play with Messi, but he's got Alex Baena, David Henkel, the American Johnny Cardoso, Raspadori for whatever reason, Thiago Almada, Matteo Ruggeri, Mark Pubo from La Liga 2, etc. Simeone's had his way in the transfer market, but yet things are not looking the brightest. I'm sure the team is going to click eventually, which is why I have them finishing as high as 12th place. But if they don't, man, have I screwed up in these predictions, huh? Their schedule's alright too. Their most difficult games are against Inter Milan, Liverpool at Anfield, and Arsenal. And the last time these guys went to Anfield, they beat us 3-2 in the iconic hate watch for many football fans. Good thing they don't have Morata again, or else I would have started having some Vietnam flashbacks. You know, in high school, I only ever skipped one day of school, and it was the day where we played Atletico Madrid in the second leg at Anfield, because this happened in my senior year second semester, which meant that school wasn't really that important, you feel me? But despite me skipping school, we lost. Are you kidding me, bro? I'm still pissed at Adrian for his dreadful performance. Anyways, with all that being said, Atleti's gonna finish 12th place. Now my pick for 11th place might shock many because this is definitely an upset, but I'm actually have to go for Inter Milan. That's right, the side that beat Barcelona in the semifinals last year to make the final of the Champions League before getting smacked 5-0 by PSG in the final. And that's right, the side that has made like 2 Champions League finals in the past 3 years. Yeah, I got them finishing outside the top 8 spot. I know, let me cook though. These guys have just lost their manager that took them that far in Inzaghi, who left it all Hilal. And although they've kept most of their players intact, like Lautaro Martinez is still there, Marcus Thuram, Çalhanoğlu is staying after some controversy on whether he was going to leave or not, Bastoni is staying, etc. But this new manager, Christian Chivu, I'm not the most convinced by him. Even at the FIFA Club World Cup too, he and Inter Milan look so underwhelming. They even got knocked out early by Fluminense in the round of 16. So with all things considered, including their schedule, which is alright, I got Inter finishing 11th place disappointingly for them. Let's see if my bold prediction ends up becoming true. Moving on to 10th place on my list though, this might be really high for some of y'all, but I got Villarreal. That's right, the Yellow Submarines are going to finish very high on my predictions, with them being in 10th place. I know I'm a little crazy. Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs, if you will. I actually haven't had Cocoa Puffs in a long time, I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely more of a Cocoa Pebbles type of guy. But anyways, I really like Villarreal. I think they're going to be one of the most underrated and fun sides to watch this season. Just look at the way they're performing so far in this campaign, despite losing their creative magician at the center of the pitch, Alex Baena to Atletico Madrid, and Jeremy Pino to Crystal Palace. They had a convincing win against recently promoted side Oviedo 2-0, and then they absolutely slapped the hell out of Girona 5-0, with the Canadian Tejo Buchanan scoring a hat-trick in this game. Well done to him. And they also signed another Canadian too from Minnesota United, and Tani Oluwasei. So Villarreal are really invading the Canadian market right now. But now I'm gonna need them to start invading the American market. I need more of an excuse to watch these guys. Sign Alex Freeman already, bro. Please. Speaking about signings too, they just signed Georges Mekadze from Lyon. So yeah, they're cooking. But yeah, like I said, Villarreal are an exciting team to watch. And I'm very bullish on that. Plus, their schedule isn't even that bad. Their worst away day is probably going to be Tottenham. Most of their other difficult matches are going to be at home, which they're pretty good at. So don't expect Villarreal to drop too many points at their stadium. So with that, I don't really care about what anyone else has to say. But I got Villarreal finishing very high in 10th place. Now for 9th place, I'm going to go for a very shocking and huge upset. I'm aware of this. But I'm actually going to have Bayern Munich finishing in the highest playoff spot possible, just missing out on the top 8. Here's why. Bayern are a very good side. They're the best best team in Germany, and it's clear for anyone to see. And when you have top players like Harry Kane up top, Michael Olise on the right, who I expect to have a world-class season, and new signs to help out like Luis Diaz from Liverpool, I expect Bayern Munich to do well, which I mean they are. 9th place is not bad at all. The thing is, I still got question marks against them when they play against some of Europe's best teams, which they have to do since they're playing Chelsea, PSG, and Arsenal, in which I can see them collecting 0 out of 9 points from those games. And I definitely got question marks over Vincent Kompany. Him winning the Bundesliga is not good enough for me. I can win the Bundesliga too if you gave me Bayern Munich squad. I promise you, bruh. So with that, and the fact that not everything is going to go the way the favorites want, like there's going to be upsets, I just believe that Bayern Munich is going to be one of them. And this is why I have them finishing outside the top 8. Now it's time for the automatic round 16 ticket spots in the Champions League season, aka the top 8. But before we talk about that, I would like to remind you all once again to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also if you guys can, follow me on my Twitter and my Instagram, both on Debuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. And also make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams may be coming soon, so if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Back to topic, the club I got barely finishing in the top 8 spot is going to surprise some of y'all, but I'm actually backing Tottenham Hotspur. Yes, I know. They only qualified to the Champions League by winning the Europa League, and they finished one spot above the relegation zone in the Premier League last season in 17th place. But this season feels different for Tottenham. They've got a completely new look, and they look pretty damn good so far. So over the summer, they signed Ange Postecoglou despite him winning the Europa League, ending Spurs' trophy drought, and they ended up signing Thomas Frank from Brentford, one of the most underrated managers in the world in my opinion. This dude is a football mastermind, and so far this has proven true. He led Tottenham to beat Burnley 3-0 in the opening game, thanks to 2 great goals from Richarlison, and then ended up beating Manchester City away from home 2-0, causing a dent in the title race early on. Not only that, Spurs have made a ton of good signings in this window, most notably Mohamed Kudus from West Ham, and most recently too, Xavi Simons, who was strongly linked to Chelsea all window for a ton of money. And these are great signings for Spurs if they want to challenge in all competitions this season, including trying to win another trophy in back-to-back seasons. Plus with their schedule, it does seem pretty doable-ish. If you remove PSG from the schedule, this is basically a Europa League lineup, so with a favorable set of fixtures, I can see Tottenham doing so well that they might secure an automatic ticket to the round 16 by finishing in 8th place. You heard it here first. Moving on to 7th place, this also might be a surprise to some of y'all, but I got Manchester City. Now City are bouncing back from a terrible season where they went trophyless under Pep Guardiola, but over the past summer, they have splashed a ton of cash on some new signings to prevent this from ever happening again. Like Ryan Cherky, their new number 10, Tijani Reinders, one of the most underrated and top midfielders in the world from AC Milan, Ryan Nuri, James Trafford, potentially Donnarumma in the coming days, etc. However, in terms of on the pitch, I'm not really too convinced. I think Pep Guardiola is only getting older and his ideologies are getting found out more and more, not to the point where they're going to fall off the face of the earth and collapse like ancient Rome, but to the point where they're not going to be one of the favorites to win the Champions League. I still think they're going to be good enough to finish in the top 8, but anything further than that is a little too much in my opinion. I mean, you can't be losing to Spurs 2-0 at home on the second match day and expect me to say that you'll finish higher than 7th place now. Come on. City are lucky that I'm not having Spurs ahead of them, because I seriously consider that. Now for 6th place, this might be a little shock to some of y'all, but I'm actually have to go for Real Madrid. Hear me out. I know it's crazy not putting them in like the top 3, but I have my own reasons. First of all, they literally finished in a playoff spot last season, so me saying that they'll finish 6th out of all the places I could have put them in is not even that wild. Second, I think Real Madrid are not as great on the pitch as they should be. They signed so many new players and a new manager this summer in Xabi Alonso, like Carreras, as I mentioned before, Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool basically on a free, then Hoyson from Bournemouth, and Franco Mastattuano from River Plate, to an already stacked squad consisting of Rodrigo, although he's not getting any minutes recently, he should honestly leave, Mbappe, Vinicius, Federico Valverde, Jude Bellingham, Carvajal, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Courtois, etc. And even though they started off the La Liga campaign good with them defeating Osasuna 1-0 and then beating Oviedo away from home 3-0, I just don't know, man. I won't forget that Club World Cup performance where they got their shit rocked by PSG. So yeah, it's not like I'm saying they're gonna fail miserably and finish in a non-automatic round 16 spot, but I think 6 is a pretty reasonable prediction for Real Madrid. I low-key think that any team I have above them in this list can beat them in a game, hence why I got them 6th. Plus, their schedule's alright. They got Man City and Liverpool, which could end up being 2 losses, especially that game against Liverpool at Anfield, the return of Trent Alexander-Arnold. This is gonna be juicy. And also, everybody knew that Real Madrid and Liverpool were gonna be at Anfield before the draw even happened, bro. Are we sure we're not using warm balls again, this time through a computer? Cause there's no way this was legit, bro. You UEFA, you naughty boy.
You naughty, you teasing me, you naughty.
But don't worry, UEFA, I'm not complaining. I wanted to see a Trent return to Anfield, and now we're getting it, so I can't really complain. Let's now move on to who I got finishing in 5th place in the Champions League table, and I got Chelsea. I feel like I'm seeing this a lot from other football fans online, but everybody seems to think that Chelsea are much better suited to a knockout style and short competition like the Champions League compared to a long and grueling Premier League season, and I seem to agree. Look at the way Chelsea performed in the Club World Cup and the way they bossed the apparent best team in the world in PSG in the final. Chelsea love knockout stage competitions, hence why I have them finishing as high as 5th place. And also they got plenty of young world-class talent like Cole Palmer, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Reece James when he's fit, etc. Chelsea are a great football club, and when you spend as much money as they did, they should be really good for competitions like the Champions League, which in my opinion they are. Plus, apart from Barcelona and Bayern Munich in their schedule, I think the rest of the fixtures could easily be 3 points for them. hence why I got them finishing so high on my list. But yeah, Chelsea are 5th, and I'd be very surprised if they didn't finish in the top 8 for sure. Moving on to 4th place, I'm actually have to go for Arsenal. And I think Arsenal were already doing really good last season, especially in the Champions League, where they went to the semifinals and lost to PSG, and they finished 3rd place on the league table. But now in the past summer, I would definitely say that they've strengthened. They signed Marta Zubimendi from Real Sociedad for a huge sum of 70 million euros. Recently just signed their new number 10, Eberiche Eze from Crystal Palace. He loved the Gunners growing up, so this is a homecoming of sorts. They finally got their striker Victor Gyökeres from Sporting CP for a large sum of money. The jury's still out on him on whether he's actually good enough for the Prem or not, but only time will tell. Noni Madueke from Chelsea, Christian Mosquera from Valencia, Christian Orga from Brentford, promoted Max Diamond from the youth ranks, Kepa from Bournemouth, and are in talks to sign Hincapie from Bayer Leverkusen. And their only relevant departures is Thomas Partey, who left on a free to Villarreal. And good riddance, you definitely don't want anybody like him on your team. So with barely any outs and a lot of ins, this is Mikel Arteta's last chance in my eyes to pull off something special with this very good and talented squad that the Gunners have. And looking at their schedule, other than Bayern, Inter away from home, and Atletico Madrid potentially, none of these other teams should be getting any points off of Arsenal. So I got Arsenal finishing really high, and I'm expecting them to do well. I just think the other 3 teams on this list are better. But Arsenal finishing 4th is still very good. And 3rd, this might be a little shocking considering that they just won the Champions League last season, but I got PSG finishing in 3rd. Hear me out. Luis Enrique's team is still very good, and they basically kept all the players that helped them win the Champions League except Donnarumma, who's poised to leave. But they signed Lucas Chevalier from Lille as his replacement, and also signed a new center back Ilya Zabarny from Bournemouth. They'll also help build depth at that position in the back. So PSG still look good on paper. The reason why I don't have them higher than 3rd place though is because of their recent performances. And no, I'm not talking about in League 1, bro. They'll cakewalk to the league title. But I meant more so in the Club World Cup final where they got demolished by Chelsea. And also the Super Cup against Tottenham. Yes, although they won on penalties, they were down 2-0 at one point. And if it weren't for Lee King providing hope thanks to his late strike, PSG would have definitely lost that game. I still think this is a team that everybody should be scared of, but they're not invincible as we once thought. They also got a few tough fixtures like against Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and hopefully the Camp Nou, Tottenham, etc. So I can see them dropping points here or there. But yeah, I got PSG in 3rd. Then in 2nd place, I'm actually not going to be completely biased for once, and I'm going to have my own club Liverpool finishing in this spot. Here's why I'm so confident that my club is going to do well in the Champions League group table phase, or whatever the hell it's called. It's because last year we were given a very difficult Champions League schedule, and we still end up topping the table, winning almost every single game. So with that, I don't really see why we can't do that again, especially with a bunch of new talented players coming in, and hopefully some more soon like Guehi and Alexander Isak. The games I'm looking forward to in this tie is all of them, especially that Trent return with Real Madrid at Anfield. I mean, we did beat them last year at Anfield 2-0, so I can't see why we can't do it again. And I'm excited to see how we look at a hostile environment like Galatasaray away from home. But overall, I feel like I've talked about Liverpool a lot recently. I rate Arne Slot, I rate the team, and I can see us doing well in the Champions League table phase. But the team I got topping this table this season has to be FC Barcelona. I mean, to be fair, they were really close to topping the group last year too, but they only missed out due to Liverpool topping it. This time, I'm just switching it around. Now, they do have some worries that we gotta discuss, like losing Inigo Martinez to El Nasser. But with the new additions like Marcus Rashford to an already stacked team consisting of Lewandowski, Pedri, Gavi, potential Ballon d'Or winner Rafinha maybe, Dani Olmo, Ferran Torres, Ronaldo Araujo, Jules Koundé, Alejandro Balde, and of course the star boy Lamine Yamal, I think Barcelona are more than good enough to top the table. Their schedule seems light work too. Their toughest opponents are going to be PSG at home, but they're lucky it's at home so they can definitely win that. Chelsea away is also on there, and we might get a recreation of the potential corrupt game back in 2012. And Newcastle St. James's Park. That could also be a difficult one too. But overall, when you have somebody as good as Lamine Yamal, anything is possible, including top of the table, which is what I see Barcelona doing this season. But anyways, what do you guys think about my Champions League predictions for the 25-26 season? Do you agree or disagree with what I said? Let me know your own personal opinions and predictions in the comments down below. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe. I really appreciate it. And please be sure to follow my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and join the Discord community. All the links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want to learn why the 2014 World Cup will always be so iconic and will never be forgotten, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.